Let's talk about bows, but first I'm going to say in the description of this video, I'm going to include a version by Bill Monroe playing that same song that I played last night on the mandolin. It's haunting. I could have chose many people to do it, but I think the way that Bill sings and plays really brings that song to life. It's haunting. But back to bows. Now I have so far, I'm just going to show you what I've got. I've got matched up pretty evenly in bends and stuff. Two, let's call them 5-bend bows. You can also call them Cupid shape because that little terrorist Cupid shot a bow like this, but let's call these the 5-bend bows. Red oak, 56 inches from tip to tip, which is a little beyond what they say that the Plains horse bows were. If you go to the traditional Bowyer's Bibles, and from what I've seen too in museum bows, because I've done a lot of research, they were usually a lot shorter than 56 inches. They were getting down into the 40s, mid 40s, low 40s. But again, I sell bows, and so I also have to be concerned with the people that use them. A little story is I once made, I believe it was 42 inches, 44 inches, made out of hop horn beam, sinew backed, a little gull wing. And I told the fellow, I mean, in no uncertain terms, this is and I'm guessing, but like an 18-inch draw bow or 19 or 20, whatever. You get my drift. It's in the shallow end of the pool as far as the draw lengths. And he shot the heck out of that bow and sent me pictures of himself from the side shooting it. I swear, he was yanking that thing back ungodly far, nowhere near what I told him in no uncertain terms was a maximum draw length. It's not an English longbow. It's a little horse bow. The fellow didn't listen. He drew it back that far repeatedly because he could. And then after a couple months, he was saying, the bow's developing string follow. It's, yeah, because you injured that bow. So I'm like, fine, send it back, you know, and I'll make good on it, even though you destroyed it. You know, as a person that needs good feedback, needs good customer service, even though he was responsible for injuring that bow, I ate the price. You know, so took the sinew off, repaired it, and I don't have that bow anymore. I sold it again because I was able to repair that bow with heat treating and rebacking it, the whole 9 yards, and selling it as a return bow that I repaired, telling the complete story. Probably sold it on eBay. This full disclosure, you know, maintaining good customer service here. But that goes to show you that I have a balance. If I was to sell little 46-inch horse bows or something like that, a lot of people would respect. This is what it is. This is draw length. It is. But, you know, I want to create bows at borderline length. These are 56 inches, and the Bowyer's Bible says 55 inches were usually the maximum. But, you know, there's a lot of bows on the outside, so I can, you know, in good conscience, 56 inch, that's fine. I could certainly chop a half an inch off of each tip, and, you know, it'd be good. But a lot of it has to do with the ability for people to enjoy it, you know, too. Bridging that gap between very short draw bows and bows with a little longer draw lengths that'll work. And then I have one of these, a gull wing. Hello, Ben. It's your bow. And same 56 inches length. It's a good base. And currently, it's going to be another gull wing, not a 5-bend, but a gull wing in the bending form. Now, as far as steam bending, you don't need jigs. For doing the recurve tips, you certainly don't need something like this. For the longest time, I just bent the recurve and the tips by just boiling the tips and then just pushing them onto a hard surface, having a glove and just using my hand. No jig whatsoever, just doing it by eye. Bending the center sections, which I do with Osage horse posts, just over my knee, you know, to set the handle back. I always do the limbs just over my knee, not 2 bows at a time, but 1 bow. Time-wise, I will set, because these are 3/4 of an inch thick, give or take. I've got my jig set so I can have the clamps on it, even before it's bent. Just take the holes and then move them close enough to the edge so your clamps will work. Get them set. Put pads, and I've gotten so where I put foil around the wooden pads, so believe me, when you steam a lot with clamps, you're going to get some corrosion and stuff, and it can soak through the wooden pads into the bow. So it's always best to use foil there to keep from getting dark spots on the wood. Set that over my kettle and get a dedicated kettle. If you're going to steam a lot, you're going to wind up ruining kettles because of all the tannins and everything else in the wood that falls into the water. So just get a dedicated steam kettle, and it doesn't need to be big. Pot, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 quart. The bigger the pot, the less chance you have of steaming them dry. And just foil, just tin foil. Just put the tin foil right over that, boil it, steam it. Maybe put a towel over it just so it absorbs some of the moisture so you're not steaming up your house as bad. It'll steam up the house. 20 minutes. 20 minutes minimum before you start turning your clamps over the course of maybe 5 or 6 minutes, a little bit at a time until you drive it home. Then I usually steam these twice. It's in the clamp, let it cool, let it sit, and I put it over the kettle again for another 8 or 10 minutes. Just like this. It's already in there. Just let it sit in patience. Just let it sit a while. Now you might be thinking that you're infusing, and these are going to be sinew bags, so it doesn't matter. Even if I was putting moisture into the wood, they're going to be drying for a couple months anyway, so big deal. But steaming actually dries the wood. Counterintuitive, but it dries the wood, so regardless, before you put strain on your bow, if you're just bending a bow that's not going to be sinew bagged, let it sit for a week. Be on the conservative side and let the moisture levels in the wood go back to where they were before. Notes. I know that there were some notes. Okay, if you are going to be ambitious and build a tip squisher, I like it because for those sharp bends in the tips, 2 surfaces squeezing together to keep things from going awry. I need to come up with a better system than tying this down, but it works, whatever. Let me get this off. There we go. You can see how that is kind of scorched. Within the last 4 minutes of boiling my tips, when I recurve tips, I can get them into the boiling water. I like boiling with oaks and ashes and stuff like that. The steaming works great, boiling works good. Plunging the tips into boiling water swells up all the pores so you're not, again, filling the bow with water, so no big deal. But within the last 4 minutes of my 15-minute steam time, I steam this thinner portion of the limp boil/steam 15 minutes. That's plenty. But within the last 4 minutes, before the timer goes off, and I'm about to pull the bow out and stick it in here this way, and then slowly but surely pull this down, the last 4 minutes I take my heat gun, that's why it's scorched. This is hot. So this hot piece of wood is then touching the hot, steamy, boily tips, and I don't get any failures. I mean, it does a really good job of bending the tips. Yeah! And I'm thinking of having some kind of thing here where it's kind of a ratchet. You can pull it this way. But the tying works good. And that's that for that. That. What am I going to do now? Am I going to bend the limbs? I could. It's in the jig. It's safe. It'll get steam soaking into this area because it's very close. And when I'm bending the limbs, I don't do it in the center and get an even arc through here. You notice the bend is close and then it's straight. I think ahead. What's it going to look like when it's being drawn, when it's being strung? And I like the looks of the bow when the bend is like in the first third and then it's just straight here. Just, it looks better as the finished bow. What do I do here? Look at, I've got the handle, it's bent, I've got the limbs bent, and I'm going to steam this. If I put the tips in the steam, there's going to be steam going over, because these are the last things I do, over this portion. If I'm bending this stuff, and this is out of the jig, how do I maintain like this bend? Each bend that I already did when I'm going to bend a new piece, it's tricky. I take a towel and I wrap it over the pre-bent section. Then I take aluminum foil and wrap it over the towel and then seal that end on the steamy side where that towel is, cinch it down the rubber band to keep this insulated and keep the already bent section out of the steam. It can work the same as on the tips. Wrap a towel over a little beyond the bend, wrap a towel there, wrap aluminum foil, rubber band it all down. You might have two towels and two things. So I can put steam in here and it's not going to unsteam, because if I left all this over the kettle, it would just go straight again. You have to insulate where you've already bent stuff. And that's about it. That's all I need to talk about today. The last thing, what am I going to do now? I kind of left that. Am I going to go ahead and steam the limbs? No, I'm going to go outside because this is so cool. Got a big sugar maple out here. And I'm not going to saw the tree down. I'm not going to knock the tree down, but for some reason, a sucker had formed at the base of that tree. So I've got a sugar maple sprout on the side of this tree that I think it's about this big around. And it has, if I remember right, like 10 feet of just clear, perfectly straight trunk with no limbs. So I'm going to score that piece. And I'm going to see how many of these I can cut out of that tree and have stave-made sugar maple sinew-backed bows, gull wings. It's going to be BA. Sugar maple. When you think about bow woods, and I talked about this before, it's like, I'm not going to buy any more staves. I'm going to go the route that I'm going to use what I have. Northern Michigan here. What do I have as far as an array of bow staves? I'm not going to go after the white ash because of the emerald ash borer, and I've got a group of trees here that are resistant, so I'm not going to risk killing any white ash that may be resistant to the emerald ash borer. I'm just going to leave them. But what are some good bow woods here? I do have, there's red oak, plenty of that, and there's no scourges hitting it, but you know, I can buy that at the lumberyard, so why kill a decent tree here for no reason? The sugar maple that I found, I love that sprout. I don't even need to kill a tree to get it. It's like free. Birch is a good bow wood. I've always wanted to try tamarack. I've always wanted to try tamarack. But I've got sugar maple, I've got birch, I've got red oak if I need it. Again, maybe, maybe not. What are some other bow woods? Oh, got chokecherry, which would have been definitely one of these. I might even have serviceberry. I know I have a serviceberry with a whole bunch of trunks, and I'm eyeing it out there. It's a decorative tree, but there's probably about 12 trunks coming out of it, and one of them is big enough for bows. It has kind of a spirally thing that goes on, but I can certainly just cut it instead of splitting it. And if there is run out, slight run out because of the spiraling, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter all whatsoever because it's bound to be sinew backed, and that covers up a lot of ills. A question was raised by a fellow that stopped by here to pick up a bow. What about if there's run out on the belly? have you ever seen a failure on the belly because of run out of grain? And within reason, because I don't, use really horrid grain, walk away from a bad grain bow. But I've never seen a belly failure because of a little run out, because of spiral nature of a tree. Never have. Within reason. I suppose if you wanted to make a 400-pound bow, you might run into issues. But within the normal range, I'd have to say no. Anyway, that is all I'm going to say. Check out that song that's in the description. Hope you picked something out of this little discussion. Have a good day. I am off. I could just end it there and probably people would agree. Off. Put my coat on, grab my handsaw, and hopefully, fingers crossed, score world-class sugar maple for some gull wings. And remember, stay the heck out of the metaverse. And I don't like robots.